Welcome back to Little Pup Auto Repair. I wanted to go over my thoughts and kind of show you how I go about determining on a engine block whether or not I think that the block sitting as is can be used as a re-ring job, or whether the block has to be taken to a shop and be rebored and have oversized pistons put in it. So first, I'm going to show you how I measure the cylinders, and I usually just draw on a piece of paper like 4 circles. I usually make smaller circles so I can get all 4 cylinders on one sheet of paper. So we're just going to say that that's the number 1. So this is number 1 cylinder, this is number 2. And we're going to take measurements off of the number 1 here. We're just going to say this is the number 1, and this is the number 2. And my first measurement is going to be vertical, straight in line with the engine block. So it's going to be here. That's going to be the first measurement on the first cylinder. And the first measurement that I take will be on at the top of the cylinder, right near where the piston crown reaches the top of the cylinder, right here. So my first measurement is going to be here, and I will write down the diameter right there, make a parenthesis, and then I'll take a second reading. That'll be midway in the cylinder, right there. And then my third reading will be right here. And I'll put my measurement inside that parenthesis. Then my second measurement will be across the cylinder at the top. And you can put your measurement over here. I'll just put it over here for right now. So at the top of the cylinder, measurement's going to be there. My midway down the cylinder wall right here, second measurement, third measurement, etc. You get the idea. And that's about it. And I get all my measurements in the cylinder, and then the directional, the diagonal, both ways. And I'll get all my measurements on all axes of the cylinder written down in 3 different positions in the cylinder for that particular cylinder. And I'll just repeat that process to the next cylinder and the next and the next until I have all my measurements written down on paper. And I usually use a tool, which is this tool right here. It's a bore gauge. It's got a little knob at the bottom of it right there. You loosen it up, and these are spring loaded so they can fit in different size bores. And you just put it in there like this. Make sure you're square to the cylinder, so you get a nice perfect measurement. You tighten that down, it locks in place. You pull it out. Then I use a dial caliper, just cheap little tools. I think I paid like $15 for this dial caliper. 10 years ago. I think they're about 25 now at Harbor Freight. Zero that out. Close enough, you know. And then I'll lay this down on a flat surface. It's just easier sometimes if you do it this way. And I'll just put that dial caliper, those arms right over there, right over that, and right there you got like 86. Let me try that again. .6 at the top. Now the piston, here's the piston, and I'll measure the top of the piston, and we have looks like 86.19. $86.38. So we've got first measurement is 86.6. The piston's 86.38. We'll say 86.4. So, you know, you just subtract 86.4 from 86.6. And that's a very small amount, you know, a little bit of wear there. And that's all there is to it. It's pretty simple stuff. And the reason that I decided to just re-ring the first engine, the one that I bought from a wrecking yard on the East Coast, and save the original engine here that came out of the truck, is because I just needed to rebuild something as fast as I could. And because I wanted it to be like my main daily driver for one thing. And so I knew that if I was going to have to leave the block at a machine shop and have them do boring, rebore, and you know, all that extra work that they would have to do, that it was going to take more time and cost more money. And I really wanted to like get this done as quick as possible so that I could get this thing running and on the road again. And I wanted to save this, you know, for a really good rebuild later on, and put it back in the truck at some point in time. Definitely keep it for the truck. You know, it goes with the truck if I ever decide to get rid of it and sell it at some point. And I also knew that this block had been rebuilt before, because the pistons that I pulled out of it, a couple of them were oversized. They had a stamp mark, B on one and C on another. So they had different oversized pistons for different cylinders. So I'm not sure why, who rebuilt it. I don't know who rebuilt it, whether, you know, it was somebody working from home or whether it was a professional shop. But this block I'm going to take to a professional machine shop and have them put it on a computerized CNC type boring machine, you know, scope it out and program it, do everything they have to do to it, that way so I can get the most accurate machine work done to this block so that this engine will be a top performing engine when it's done. I want it to be like a new engine. And peak power and all that stuff. And I've been to some shops. I've probably been to about 4 to 5 different shops in my local area. And about half of them were subpar, meaning low quality workmanship. And those are the shops that were the smaller shops where they usually only had 1 to 2 people working in the shop at all times. And I noticed that the bigger shops that had the really nice equipment, the newest equipment, they had larger staff, and they had supervisors, and some even had quality control checkers, to check, the work that the machinist did. So you have a machinist doing the work, you have supervisors supervising the machinist, and you got sometimes QC checking the work, or the supervisors are checking their work. And that turned out to be the best shop to go to, because then there's no screwing around, there's no BS. It's do it right or die at those kinds of a shop. The other shops were a little bit more lazier, the small shops, and usually what I found out was they were always overloaded. They had a dozen people bringing in their engines and cylinder heads and all the parts. So you had 1 guy to 2 guys trying to get all this work done. And it was just a nightmare for a customer like me, because now usually I would have to wait a couple months just to get one little thing done, like this block checked out. And I didn't have that much time. Now, sometimes you have. One time I had to wait. I think this was like my first time that I took a block to a machine shop back in, I think it was around 1992. Yeah, 1992. And it was a diesel block for an 81 Isuzu iMark 2-door coupe, the 1.8 diesel block. And this was kind of a new shop that opened up near where I lived at. And I just said, okay, there's a machine shop there. I'll just go there, take my block there, right? And now you have to understand that I didn't have much money at the time, and I didn't have any money to buy another engine or replace what I had to take to them to get work done. It was non-replaceable for me. Now at the time, 1992, you could still find a lot of these engines. They were still relatively new. About 10 years old, something like that. 10, 12, 13 years old. So they were all over the place. Easy to find a replacement block, but I didn't have the money to, buy another one if something went wrong. And so I took it there, I dropped it off, and they said, okay, give us about a week or 2. So I called them about 2 weeks later, and they said, oh, no, not done yet. And our guy, he went on vacation. He's on vacation, won't be back for another week. So I wait another week, call him back. So now 3 weeks have gone by. And They said, oh, not done yet. Yeah, he's been working on it, but it's not done yet. And I told him that I really need it. I really need it, like soon, because that was my only car, that was my work vehicle. And, me and the wife were sharing one car while this engine was being done. So I needed it back together again so I could drive it as soon as possible. So I call them back again, and they say, yeah, it's ready to pick up. So I go pick it up and bring it home, start putting the pistons and rods in it. I get one piston in it, one rod, and I look down the bore when the piston's down at the bottom of the bore, and there's a huge gap. I didn't measure the cylinders or anything, but there was like an 1/8 inch gap, piston to wall clearance, an 1/8 inch. And I said, ugh, I just went, ugh, that's not good. Very disappointed. So they completely ruined the cylinders, and they were tapered like that. It was tight clearance at the top, an 1/8 inch gap at the bottom, so they were tapered and open near the bottom. And that's not right. They're supposed to be straight up and down, parallel from the top to bottom, same diameter, all up and down the cylinder. So I knew at that moment the block was ruined and it was non-repairable. And I didn't have time to go look for another one, didn't have the money to buy another one, so I put it back together as fast as I could, got it back in the car, and just kind of hoped that it would run. So that was a big blunder, I would say. And I learned my lesson there after that, that I'd never go through that again. And I don't want you guys to, have any problems like that either. And that's kind of why I recommend going to a big shop, that has nice equipment in it, nice boring equipment, the latest and greatest, in technology, with supervisors who are supervising the people working in there. And that way you can avoid going through and having mistakes done that I experienced. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And I think that's about it. As far as the cylinders go, you just want to make sure that they're round. The cylinders have to be round for those rings to seal properly. They don't have to be perfect, but they're going to have to be close to round. And you don't want tapered cylinders that's bigger at the top and tight at the bottom, or vice versa. But although they're going to have to be tight at the top, that's you want it to seal at the top, on the top of the compression stroke, the combustion stroke, so you get that power that you need. So you don't want to be worn out at the top very much. Keep that to a minimum. And other than that, you should be fine on a re-ring job. Yeah, should be fine. So that's all I'm going to talk about there, and I'm going to end it here. So an overview of the determining factors that will allow you to decide if you can get away with just a re-ring job is wear in the cylinder, like right here at the top. It's a little bigger here at the top than it is farther down in the cylinder. This is where a lot of your wear occurs here. Like on this particular engine, you can have piston to wall clearance of 0.014. What is it? 0.014 inches, I think is what it is. That's the outside, the maximum tolerance. The outside tolerance is 0.014. 0.012 or 0.014, something like that, is your outside tolerance. For piston to wall clearance. That's quite a bit, actually. But you can feel it if you take your finger and you start down like near the middle and you pull it out. It kind of tapers. It opens up and you can feel it, the wear at the top right there. But the cylinders have to be round for those rings to seat and seal, and you don't want a big ridge right here where there's piston wear at the top. It's low right here, just below this burnt mark, and you'll feel it if you have a low spot right there underneath this burnt mark. Call this the ridge, because if you have to ridge ream this area right here to get it flush with the rest, with the cylinder that's worn, it's going to open this up too big, and you'll have a too big of a gap, piston to wall gap right here. Now you can see this one, there's no ridge because this block was rebuilt. And it probably only has about 50,000 miles on it, if that. So this is a perfect candidate for a re-ring job. Although I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have them remachine it. And that's about it. But of course the best thing to do is, you know, if you want the best quality, top performing engine, then of course a rebore with matching pistons fit to it is the way to go. But if you're on a budget and you want to just do it yourself and save a lot of money, then there you go.